Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and culture. My name is Nicky and I'm joined, as always, by the man who loves nothing more than relaxing to grand designs and getting wired into a grapefruit. It's Greg. How are you today, Greg?
Very well, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Good. How's your week been? And how's your weekend been? Are you feeling sore? Because I heard you were playing 7-a-sides yesterday.
I have to admit to a bit of stiffness. I'm not as bad as I thought I would be. I was kind of browbeaten into making a glorious return to the football pitches after 6 years last night. And I didn't do too badly, if I'm honest. I mean, I sort of sat back in defence. I did win the ball a number of times, didn't hold on to it for very long. I was either relieved of it or I managed to get it out to one of my teammates. But we won 8-5. We were playing against a team consisting of mostly Asian guys who were fit as fiddles, but also quite easy to knock down. So I think just that sort, and most of the team, I played on, my teammates were Scottish guys as well. We had a couple of Indian guys in there as well, but most of the guys were Scottish, so perhaps used to a bit more of a physical game than maybe our Asian friends were, I would say.
We do have a few downloads in Asia, so I'm kind of debating whether to keep this in or not.
No, I mean, they were a good team. They were good. And their collective fitness was a lot better than our collective fitness. I'm just saying that, they kind of quite easy to knock down. That's all I'm saying. That perhaps we aren't expecting such a physical game.
Okay.
Yeah, so
great.
So I have to admit to a bit of stiffness today, but I enjoyed it, and we're through to the quarterfinals. So playing again next week.
Congratulations! I look forward to hearing how you get on the next episode.
What about you? What's been transpiring?
I'm good. I had my first outing to the cinema this weekend for nearly 2 years. The last film I went to see at the cinema would have been Rise of Skywalker, and the last film I went to see at the cinema with my wife would have been Joker, which was like October 2019. 19? Yeah. So 2 years. Went to see the new Ghostbusters film, Ghostbusters Afterlife. I know you haven't seen it yet, so I will not say any spoilers, and I won't say anything to in case any of our audience haven't seen it yet. But all I'll say is, it's bad when I think it was like 5 minutes to go maybe, and your wife kind of taps you on the arm and hands you a packet of tissues because I was crying so much. I'm not talking just misty eyes. Yeah, I'm talking tears streaming down both cheeks, absolutely in bits. So that was a very manly excursion to the cinema for me. Because we'd had a beer whilst watching the film. My wife was like, "Are you okay to drive home?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm fine with the beer, but I just need like 5 minutes for my eyes to kind of settle back and get back to normal, and then I'll be okay." So very enjoyable. It was nice to be back in the cinema after, 2 years, but I don't go to the cinema a lot. I think we've discussed that on the podcast before. I prefer watching films at home, but it's a nice experience and I enjoy it. So it was very nice to be out and about. Yeah.
I know, I've been enjoying some of the Ghostbusters related stuff that's been going on. I think I sent you Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson on The Tonight Show. It was on YouTube. They did The Tonight Show last week, I think, to publicise the movie. And good value. Dan Aykroyd's obviously a lot more excited about the fact there's a new Ghostbusters film out than Bill Murray or Ernie Hudson seem to be, judging by that interview. But it was nice to see the three of them together.
Well, considering he wrote the original with Harold Ramis, then I think Dan Aykroyd is a lot more financially invested than the other two in this franchise. I'll be honest, I know you sent me that video, but I did not watch it.
In case it was spoilers.
I think you sent it to me on Saturday morning, so I was going to see it on Saturday, and I completely forgot, but I will go back and watch it once we finish recording.
I mean, Dan Aykroyd does find, well, not even an excuse, the thing about American television shows, and if you've ever watched the TV in the US, or overseas listeners can attest to this, you don't get a lot of show before there's a commercial break, and especially on those late night talk shows, the guests are only on for that interview is maybe 7 minutes, and then they cut to a break. And of course, the house band on this night show are the Roots, and so the interview wraps up, and then the Roots start to play, and I think, oh well, that's the interview over. They must be about to go to an advert. But Dan Aykroyd sort of, I'm not ruining the interview by telling you this, but he sort of strides off, and for a split second, I thought, I wonder if Bill Murray said something mean to him, and he's gone off in a huff. But he goes and joins the Roots and starts, because obviously he did the Blues Brothers famously with John Belushi, and we know that he likes to perform on the stage musically. So he starts singing with the Roots, and then he's joined by Ernie and Bill. Unfortunately, how do you feel about Jimmy Fallon?
I like Jimmy Fallon a lot. Yeah. I prefer him to Kimmel or Conan. I like Fallon a lot.
So, I mean, sometimes I like him, and other times it just depends what he's talking about and what he's doing, Sometimes he gets in my tits a bit, being honest.
How many times during the interview does Dan Aykroyd plug his Crystal Skull vodka?
He doesn't, but the reason I sent you that interview on Saturday morning, I knew you were going to see the film, but I should have said that there's no spoilers, because there's not any spoilers in it. They talk about how Jason Reitman, the movie's director, was on the set of the original movie and stuff. So it's mostly it's the original film that they talk about in that clip I sent you. They don't talk about any specific details about the new film. But Fallon asks Aykroyd.
Okay.
Fallon asks him, what was the inspiration for the original movie? And Dan Aykroyd goes into quite a long anecdote, almost as long as this one, about how his grandfather had been very interested in spiritualism and ghosts and what happens to the consciousness after you die, etc., etc. And he's sort of inherited this knowledge. It sort of slows down the interview, because Bill Murray was quite funny before he started talking about that. But yeah, it's worth a watch. As I say, it's nice to see those three guys together. It's a shame that it wasn't the four of them. Obviously, Howard Ramis passed away a few years ago. But I'm looking forward to seeing the film. I got to be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Okay, shall we have a look at the news?
Let's have a look at the news. Cue the jingle.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, Greg, so what have you seen in the last week or so in Scotland that has caught your eye?
Well, I'm going to start off with a very Swally-centric story. Very much in our wheelhouse. Regular listeners will know. So this comes from the Scottish Sun on the 18th of November of this year. The headline reads, Bizarre Behaviour. Scots cinema staff forced to throw out entire pick and mix section after man dangled manhood next to sweets. A flasher dropped his trousers and exposed his private parts next to a cinema's pick and mix sweet stall, a court has heard. Scott Parker shocked unsuspecting staff by dangling his manhood next to the confectionery on display in the View Cinema in the Livingston Centre, West Lothian. As a result of his bizarre behaviour, staff decided that the sweets were no longer capable of being safely sold to the public. I feel like the sweets are sort of down on the list of priorities here. I think the fact that a guy is getting his bollocks out in a cinema is perhaps the more pressing concern. Parker, who's 45, also admitted a second outing for his genitals when he tried to break into the Tesco superstore in Bathgate early the next morning. Once again, he pulled his trousers down to his ankles as he tried to prise open an entrance door to the store on Blackburn Road in the early hours of the morning. I'm not sure why he felt the need to pull his trousers down when he was trying to jimmy the door open, unless...
Was he trying to use his cock as a skeleton key?
Possible. Parker claimed that on that occasion he was just trying to get into the shop to use the toilet. He appeared for sentence on Thursday after pleading guilty to 2 counts of public indecency, willfully or recklessly destroying property, and attempting to break into retail premises with the intent to steal. He also admitted breaching bail curfews by being found out with his home in Shaw Avenue, Armadale, 3 times, failing to answer the door to the police on another 3 occasions. In addition, he pled guilty to 2 charges of shoplifting more than £200 worth of items. The court was told his not guilty plea to actually placing his genitals into one of the suite compartments had been accepted by the Crown. Parker was subject to no less than 7 bail orders at the time of the offences, the court was told. Roshni Joshi, prosecuting, said staff at the cinema saw Parker walk straight towards the Pick and Mix self-service suites on the 4th of October. He slipped his trousers down, exposing his genitals, and placed his genitals near one of the compartments. He remained there only for a few minutes before pulling his trousers back up and walking out. She said staff reviewed CCTV footage of the incident, but attempts to trace the accused initially failed. Police arrested him at his home the following day. When charged with the offences, he replied, "No, shit, that's lies. I never exposed myself. I'm not a beast." He added, "Yous are talking pure shite. I put my hand in to get the scoop. That was it." The fiscal said Parker tried to break into the Tesco store using a metal bin lid at 1:45 a.m. on the 5th of October. When that failed, he used another implement he found nearby to try and pry the inner doors open. She said, during all of this, the accused's trousers were round his ankles and he was exposing his genitals. Craig Brown, defending, not that Craig Brown, I don't think, claimed his client, who is currently on remand, had drug and alcohol problems and was desperate to avoid a custodial sentence. He asked the court to free Parker on bail so social workers could prepare an up-to-date background report before sentence. Commented, "I appreciate the unusual nature of the offence, but he finds himself in a particularly vulnerable position in the custodial environment. He's found himself the subject of repeated threats in prison." Sheriff Douglas Kinloch deferred sentence for a criminal justice social work report, but refused to release Parker on bail. He said, "I need to try and understand what it is that's causing him to carry out this bizarre behaviour. There's no way I can allow him back into the community on bail at this stage." He told Parker, "You have completely ignored all the bail orders you've been put on, and you have offended by repeatedly shoplifting. So you remain in custody in order to protect the public." So Parker will find out his fate in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, the 7th of December. Now, we know somebody who's got form for getting the old chap out in public, don't we?
Yes, the old chap from Little John's, wasn't it? Yeah. That pesky gentleman. Yeah, I don't think he ever did it at a Pick and Mix, though.
I fucking hope not. I seem to recall them doing it in the middle of a crowded dance floor one night during You Can't Touch This, I think, the MC Hammer classic.
Did he really?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
That's odd. Because that's
I recall
that's an odd song for him to do it to, because I would have thought in a crowded dance floor he would actually be encouraging people to touch it.
well, the person in question did tap me in the shoulder and point to his member during the chorus. So perhaps it was just a warning for me, but not for any young ladies that might have been in the vicinity.
Terrible gentleman. I do love a good Pick and Mix. In fact, a good story. Our mutual friend, in fact, I say it's a good story. It's not very good story, but hey, what the hell. Our mutual friend that we mention a lot of the time on the podcast, he goes to the cinema, well, he used to, pretty much every week. And he used to have this little trick. He would go into the Pick and Mix section at the cinema and literally fill a bag. I'm talking fill it to the brim of Pick and Mix. And then he would take a secondary bag and put like 8 sweets in it. Then he would go up to the till, pay for the bag with the 8 sweets, whilst he'd hidden the massive bag in a little corner and get the receipt. And then he would go and swap the bags and walk out because he had a receipt for his Pick and Mix. And it was a foolproof plan, and it worked for him the whole time.
That's shocking. That's absolutely appalling.
I mean, it's theft is what it is, Greg. Yeah. It's theft. Yeah. And I hope the authorities are listening to this and get in touch. You can get in touch with us on cultureswally@gmail.com and we'll give you the details of our mutual friend. And View Cinema at, I don't think it is a View Cinema. I don't know what it is, Cineworld at Aberdeen Beach. You can maybe claim backdated Pick and Mix funds from him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pick and Mix should only be purchased if it's on quite a high shelf. Like, because sometimes, like, you know, at the cinema, like the shelves of Pick and Mix can be head to toe, and you know those ones that are sort of at our kind of knee height. Kids are going to have had their hands in them, right? You know what I mean? Fingering them and coughing on them and sneezing on them and stuff. As I've got old, I mean, but don't get me wrong, when I was a kid, I loved a 10p mix-up as much as anybody else. I loved Pick and Mix. I couldn't quite understand why it was so expensive, especially in the cinema. It's like that big bag that he stole, probably about 100 quid worth of fucking cola bottles in it. Do you know what I mean? But as I got older, you know, people never use those wee tongs or the wee scoops, you know?
Yeah.
I just try to avoid
Some
it.
people put their cock in it as well.
Yes. Yeah, rest their testicles on the flying saucers or the fried eggs.
What do you think? Is he just so turned on by foam bananas that he's had to get his cock out at the cinema? Or, I mean, is it just Pick and Mix? I mean, obviously he took his trousers and pants down whilst he's trying to break into Tesco. So is it, I guess it's not limited to Pick and Mix. Is it just all food items that he has this about? I mean, he would get on well with our hero from last episode that tried to break into Greg's the Baker with his cauliflower knife.
Yeah, he would.
They could form a nice little double act. It'd be like I don't know, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's got psychological issues that drive him to expose himself in the foyer of the View Cinema in Livingston. I mean, like kind of pulling his trousers down whilst attempting to break in. You think some sort of psychological assessment might be in order there. Do you know what I mean? This is one of these guys, you know, there's those guys that like getting kicked in the balls and all that, you know, they sort of masochists that like getting like kicked in the bollocks and stuff. Maybe he was trying to get the door open wide enough to get his cock in it so he could just sort of slam the door on his cock or something. You know what I mean? Maybe he was hoping somebody would see him exposing himself in Livingston and come along and fucking boot him in the balls, like a soccer mum or something. Something like that. Maybe that, I don't know. I'm not making excuses for him, but I'm just trying to work out what's driving that mad behaviour.
No, but given that term away, soccer mum, you're exposing your internet history there, Greg. Okay, so I
think I was exposing my internet history talking about guys that like to get kicked in the balls. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Speaking of people that like to take their clothes off, Greg, get the Swallowmobile, we're going to Falkirk. This is from the Falkirk Herald this week, and the headline is, Man swore at police in Falkirk and sang sectarian songs. A couple of Swally tropes in there, but the byline makes it even better. This man removed his top and began swearing at police before singing sectarian songs en route to Falkirk Police Station. So this is James McFadden, not that one. So we've had Craig Brown and James McFadden on this episode so far. We're getting quite a Scotland. Let's hope we've got Graham Souness in the next story. James McFadden, 26, was approached by officers in Falkirk's Graham's Road on August the 15th last year. McFadden, I'm not going to give out his address, pleaded guilty to committing threatening behaviour whilst on bail. Speaking at Falkirk Sheriff Court last Thursday, his Procurator Fiscal Depute Christina Kelly said, at 5:30pm, police were on mobile patrol and observed the accused walking on a public path. They approached him and he immediately took his top off and started shouting at swearing. He failed to desist, and on that matter, he was then arrested. On being conveyed to custody, he began singing Ooh Ah Up the Rah. Is that the correct pronunciation of that? I don't know. Ooh Ah Up the Rah? I don't know. I'm not an Old Firm fan, so I don't know. You'll know your sectarian songs, yeah? Ooh Ah Up the Rah. His defence solicitor said that McFadden pleaded guilty, which, you know, is fair. The report indicates that he received a community payback order in 2020. His defence lawyer said, the last time he was in Bonnar, he refrained from drinking for 12 months. But he does drink again now, but in very moderate terms. The court was told that McFadden's drink and drug abuse at the time were slightly out of control, but his solicitor said that he now has taken stock of himself in the aftermath of the incident. He accepts that his behaviour was utterly unacceptable. He just completed his previous order and he just wants to make amends and pay back to the community. McFadden was fined £675 in order to pay a £40 victim surcharge. I don't know who the £40 was to, maybe the police officers, because it doesn't sound like he did anything to anyone. So I know for a fact I've asked you this question before in terms of have you ever taken your top off in rage, because we have had someone that's done this before. But what is it? Why would you get so upset upset and just decide to whip your top off and start singing sectarian songs? Like, why is that an instant thing to think, oh, I'm so angry, the police are here, I've got to take my top off?
He probably wanted to show off his like Celtic tattoos and stuff like that. Maybe, I guess that's all I can imagine. His wee pigeon chest. You often see in the city of Glasgow on a hot sunny day, just like young guys walking through the city centre with their shirts off, tied round their waist.
Taps off.
Little ropey muscles on display for their little kind of homemade biro tattoos and stuff. I don't know. I mean, we've had people before in Falkirk on stories on the Swally just giving the police abuse. I mean, it never, ever, ever ends well. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Never. Why? I mean, you know, what would make you get so upset that you would shout and scream at the police? I mean, when we used to get a bit leery when we were younger, like the very suggestion that a police officer might be nearby would be enough to calm us right down until we felt that the threat had gone. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, no. If we were being a bit leery, and we never did anything criminal as such, we were just probably arsing about and maybe, I don't know, mucking around. I mean, criminal as in anything they could, you know, see us and arrest us for. Like, we wouldn't have done that. And as soon as we would see a police officer, it would just be straight as anything. More often than not, we would probably say hello to them.
We help the police.
How's it going? We did. We helped the police.
Helped the police.
You're giving a little spoiler there, Greg, I think, in terms of something.
Yeah, no.
That's to come on the next episode of the Swally. We're going to get a Shangalang update. But yeah, we would never do anything to kind of aggravate. We certainly wouldn't take our tops off and start singing we wouldn't sing sectarian songs anyway. We're not going to start singing, I don't know, I don't like cricket or something or fuck the police. Although I have been known to charge down the street singing fuck the police mixed with Colourblind and Jenny from the Block.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was just about to say the very same thing. Like, we might sing the remix.
I haven't sang that for many a time. That was a lovely little remix that I came up with there.
I'm sure the streets of Aberdeen will be alive with the sound of that song when we're back there for Alan Partridge next year in May.
Yeah, I'd imagine they will be. And maybe we can record it and put it on our Instagram. We can a little remix.
Yeah.
And share it with our listeners. Okay. So yeah, that's Falkirk tops off as usual. Hey, nothing changes. What else have you seen this week, Greg?
Well, I found a sort of similar rocket. This is from the Press and Journal earlier this week. The headline is "Biker Panicked and Led the Police on a Chase Through Aberdeen City Centre." There's a picture here of the quite posh sounding Kevin Thorley Smith, double-barrelled surname.
Oh.
He was sentenced to Aberdeen Sheriff Court. There's a picture of him standing outside the court in a fucking ski jacket, waving a piece of paper at the person taking his camera. Don't know what's in a bit of paper. A yob who led police on a high-speed chase through Aberdeen city centre has been banned from the road. Kevin Thorley Smith hadn't actually done anything wrong when he spotted the police at a pedestrian crossing on North Anderson Drive on July the 19th last year, but he panicked regardless, jumped the red light on his motorbike, and prompted a terrifying and dangerous police chase through the city. Wait to hear this, Nicky. This is like something from the Fast and the Furious. He then dumped his orange 125cc bike and fled on foot before scuffling with police officers and threatening to infect them with COVID-19. Aberdeen Sheriff Court heard how the 19-year-old was stopped at a red light on the pedestrian crossing at North Anderson Drive at around 1:30pm. But when he spied the police officers in an unmarked car travelling toward him, he then jumped the red light and sped off, riding the wrong way around roundabouts, speeding through residential streets and cutting over pavements. Fiscal Deputy Brian Young told the court he was seen to be watching the police vehicle approaching and suddenly travelled through the red light signal and turned into Rosehill Drive, accelerating its speed. The police officers pursued him onto Rosehill Drive, where they saw him travelling at speeds of around 40 miles an hour. He overtook vehicles in a dangerous manner and failed to stop despite being pursued by the police. He said Thorley Smith then turned into Cairncry Road, where one driver had to slam on the brakes as he rode the wrong way around the roundabout there, then headed over pavements and into parkland. He was spotted again on Ashgrove Road, but he sped away from officers who had to abandon their pursuit. Officers then found him further down Ashgrove Road, where he failed to stop despite their blue flashing lights, then abandoned his bike and fled on foot. When officers caught up with him, he began coughing on them and stating he had COVID-19. He later confirmed he'd been lying about that when he was booked into custody at Kitty Brewster Police Station. Thorley Smith's defence agent George Mathers said that the father of two panicked when he saw the police and that he was thankful that nobody was injured in the police chase. The unemployed dad admitted driving dangerously and failing to stop for police, as well as a further 2 charges involving assaulting police officers. Sheriff Graham Buchanan said he would take the man's limited record and relative youth into consideration. Thorley Smith of Seaton Place, Aberdeen, was banned from the road for 14 months and must sit an extended test to regain his licence. He was also handed a community payback order comprising 18 months of supervision and 160 hours of unpaid work. So methinks that Kevin has spent quite a lot of his youth playing Grand Theft Auto on his PlayStation.
See, my first thought is he's thrown drugs or a murder weapon in the bushes whilst he's making his getaway. Something's not right here.
Guilty conscience.
Kevin, if your lawyers are listening, it's just pure conjecture. But yeah, sounds to me like he's had something on him.
Yeah.
That he doesn't want the cops to catch him with. So he's sped off, thrown it in a bush as he's trailing away on his dirt bike like some sort of BMX Bandits-esque skit. And yeah, he's chucked someone in the bush and then got caught. He's travelled a fair distance though, looking at the streets you were mentioning, because I'm quite familiar with North Anderson Drive area. So he's travelled a fair distance before he was caught, and fair play to him. But yeah, and this was at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah,
it's not like 1 o'clock in the morning, so it's not like he was pissed. Well, I mean, he could have been pissed at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, he has to got a job, has he? So,
yeah, but there's more to this. It's like a transformer. There's more than meets the eye to this. Something murky's going on here. He's had something. He's thrown something off his bike, be it a machete covered in blood or a big kilo of coke or something.
Or a cauliflower knife covered in blood, maybe, or
a cauliflower knife covered in blood. That would be spectacular. It wouldn't be for whoever. Maybe he just cut himself whilst he was chopping cauliflower and was a bit worried about being caught with a blood-soaked knife. But yeah, there's more to this than meets the eye, I think. Something's up here.
Indeed. But anyway, he seems to have got off fairly lightly. But 18-month ban from driving. Oh, even 18 months, 14 months. And he's got to sit an extended test. So I think probably got off quite lightly, considering. I mean, there's a little map of the reporter's gone to the trouble of printing a map showing his the sort of route that he went. And you're right, he has travelled a fair distance. I suppose he's lucky he didn't fall off and hurt himself as well.
Have they highlighted the map with like a safe house and a save point and as you say, like Grand Theft Auto? Have they done that at least? Because that would have been pretty funny. Yeah. And if not, you've missed a trick there.
I think they have missed a trick there. You could have had like a little garage that he could have driven into to change the colour of his motorbike and throw off the police.
Yeah. I mean, orange is quite conspicuous. Change it to something like, I don't know, yellow, blue. I don't know.
So yeah, that's my second story. I mean, the posh-sounding Kevin Thorley Smith clearly spent far too much of his time playing video games a ute. What's your next story?
Well, Greg, there is nothing worse than waking up in the morning after the night before and realising you've lost something. This is from the Scottish Sun today, actually. Have you ever lost anything in a nightclub?
Just my dignity on many an occasion.
What, rocking out to Deacon Blue?
Yeah, or just generally making a fool of myself.
Yeah.
If you can see
one nightclub in Glasgow has taken to TikTok to reveal the strange things that they find at the end of the night. So it's the Garage in Glasgow, which I'm sure you were a big regular of, Greg.
Certainly was. I used to love a Monday night in the Garage.
They have described themselves as Scotland's biggest, busiest, and best nightclub. Would you say that claim is fair enough?
Well, look, I always had a good time in there, so I don't know. I've not been in a nightclub for maybe 15 years, maybe a bit longer. But yeah.
Well, one staff member took to TikTok to share some of the random things that they find at the end of the night, and the video has racked up 6.3 million views in just 3 days. So the video shows staff member walking around putting on plastic disposable gloves and walking around the club picking up the random items left behind. The video details things found at the club at the end of the night, and amongst the normal smashed iPhones, and they found a lot of passports, which I can imagine people take their passports out if they have show ID. There was an iPhone charger, an Adidas gilet, a perfume spray, and a glitzy bangle. But in addition to this, there was some late night entertainment, aka jungle mini playing cards, a used tampon, and one random black boot. Many TikTok users were shocked at the findings and took to comments, and the comments is the best bit. One person said, "I'll never understand how someone can lose one shoe. Like, how is this possible?" The second person commented, "The one shoe is an absolute fucking classic." Another TikTok user said, "I once found..." Sorry. "I once found a full 12-pack of Auntie Bessie's Yorkshire puddings in a nightclub." Someone said, "I found an entire Jenga game." A third added, "I often lose a shoe. Those nights are the best nights." Meanwhile, I work for a Premier Inn and I'm sick of pig customers leaving their rooms with food on the ceilings and sick-stained sheets. Sunbed shop workers also revealed the gross things that people do, including peeing in the tanning booths. So yeah, now, I can understand the one shoe. Purely from the aspect of we used to work in restaurants and bars and stuff, and we would have a rucksack with our work clothes, and I never wore my work shoes out. I'd always have a pair of trainers I would chuck in, and I could imagine going into my bag for something and maybe losing a shoe. I've never done it, but I can imagine girls would have a handbag and maybe would have shoes in it. Yeah. You know, they might take a change of shoes. A girl might have changed into flip-flops or something in the club, as sometimes they do, and maybe they've just lost a shoe. And I'd imagine the next morning they're like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, I've lost my shoe." But yeah, no matter how hammered or otherwise I have been in my career of being a piss artist, I've never lost anything in a nightclub or left anything. I always make sure I've got everything.
Yeah. I mean, I left my phone at yours the last time that I was at yours, which was a rare occurrence. But usually I never lose anything. And I don't understand. If I was going out when I was younger, I would always go out with just the minimum that I needed. You know what I mean? Like, I always used to love going out in the summer when you could go out without a jacket. So you didn't have to because sometimes you go into a nightclub and the queue for the jackets is to check your jacket in can be really long.
Yeah.
And you're sort of
huge.
You know, you're sort of just going to get in there and get a drink and, you know, get on the dance floor and see what the talent's like. So that your options are, do you wait in the queue for fucking 20 minutes, giving up precious winching time in the nightclub, or do you just or do you just carry your jacket around with you, and then you run the risk of, you know, you set it down somewhere, some bastard steals your jacket, or you forget about it, or you get chucked out for getting your cock out, and then you can't go back in and get it. You know what I mean? So I would only ever. I
don't think our friend ever got chucked out for getting his cock out.
No,
I don't think he did.
No, he only got chucked out once for another thing, but that's probably not for public consumption.
No.
So yeah, because, you know, and the other thing is, at the end of the night, you just want to go, right? When you're ready to leave the nightclub, whether the club's closing or whether you're just, you know, maybe you've copped off, or it's just time to go home because you're absolutely bluttered or you've ran out of money or whatever. You don't want to fuck about in the queue for the jackets. You just want to. You just want to go, right? So, no, I would always travel light on a night out.
So you've never lost a used tampon or Jenga?
No, or a packet of Yorkshire puddings. No, I can't say I have.
I can't believe that, though. I once found a full pack of 12 Aunt Bessie's Yorkshire puddings. Like, someone's been to Safeway or something and they've met someone, but like, "Oh, come on for a drink." Okay. And then they've ended up out till 2 a.m. and they've left their fucking Yorkshire puddings. They woke up the next morning and they've been like, "Oh, fuck. I've got no puddings for my Sunday roast. What the fuck am I going to do now?"
No, my wife's going to kill me. I was sent out to get Yorkshire puddings. That was all I was sent out for, and I ended up going out all night and ended up in the garage. I was supposed to be home at fucking 2:00 this afternoon with the Yorkshire puddings. My mum's actually got a story along those lines of when she used to work in the Glasgow Royal Infirmary as a student nurse, and when she was working in casualty, this old guy had been brought in, and he'd been pished, and he'd taken a tumble, and he'd broken his nose and hit his head. He was concussed. So they kept him in, and my mum was working on the ward that they kept him in on, and she said, "Look, is there anybody you want us to get in touch with to let them know that you're here?" And he said, "Well, you should maybe call my wife because she'll be worried about me." He said, but it was back in the days where a lot of people didn't have a phone. So he gave my mum the neighbour's phone number so the neighbour could go next door and tell the wife what had happened to her husband. So mum said that a few hours later, this woman comes like steaming in to the ward. Mum said that she was like fucking Mabrun, right? And she comes up to the old guy in the bed and belts him one. Right, so the nurses are all over. Oh, what's going on? And it turned out, it transpired that she'd sent him out like a day or two before to get to get fish suppers for the dinner, and he'd just gone to the pub for a couple of days. But he had like, so his clothes were obviously there, and he had this big sort of army greatcoat, and he's like, no, wait a minute. I did get the fish suppers, and in the big deep pockets of his coat were like day and a half old stone cold fish suppers.
Oh my god!
So he'd obviously gone and he'd obviously gone and got the dinner and thought, I'll just nip into the pub for a quick half before I go up the roads, and one half has led to a 2-day bender.
Yeah, we've all been there. Yeah, not with the fish suppers, but we've all been there. Okay. Anything else this week that has caught your eye in the news, Greg?
Well, no, just a very quick sort of nice story. Well, maybe not nice so much, maybe more nostalgic. Bit of a change of pace from our usual genitalia and the pick and mix style of stories. But the legendary video game Lemmings, which I'm sure if you're not a fan of, you'll certainly know about, is being showcased in a documentary to mark its 30th birthday. And the game was developed in Dundee by DMA Design. Who of course would go on to become Rockstar Games, who are the they must have turned over $1 billion now with their Grand Theft Auto series over the years. It was first released for the Commodore Amiga. I had a Commodore Amiga in February 1991. Made its way onto a range of platforms since. The documentary, it was commissioned by the company that currently own the Lemmings IPA. They're called Exient, and I think you can see it. You'll be able to see it on YouTube, I believe, when it's released early next year, if you're interested. So it's something
fantastic.
Dundee is a little bit like Scotland's Silicon Valley. It's where the old Sinclair Spectrum computers were put together in the former Timex factory in Dundee, and obviously DMA Design, Rockstar Games and everything all come from Dundee. So there you go. Bit of nostalgia.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, very nice. Well, the only other story I've got, and this will take 1 minute, and the only reason I picked this was because of just one line in the article. And this is from the Daily Record this week, and it's from Ayrshire. Mysterious glue vandals have been targeting Ayrshire car park ticket machines. This machine has been glued shut on 3 separate occasions. So vandals have been targeting and super gluing this car park's ticket machine. So we've mentioned this before in the Swally, that when it's for example, the first couple of articles we've spoken about this week, the newspaper comes up with the terms like sick freak or the pervert or, that type of thing. So in this article, they've come up with odd folks have been super gluing the coin slots in a car park machine in Kilmarnock Town Centre. The bizarre act of vandalism has meant that those using cash cannot pay for parking. However, those with a smartphone can pay via the app. It is not known if the sticky situation has arisen due to mindless vandalism or if it's just drivers trying to dodge paying for parking. East Ayrshire Council have confirmed that vandalism has occurred on 3 separate occasions, and the bosses at the local authority have now reported the matter to the police. That's it. I just like the odd folks.
Yeah. I like it.
In terms of, rather than sick creep or, the pervert, it's odd folks. Which I think is the way they should refer to it in future.
I liked mysterious vandals as well. I like that bit of terminology. Mysterious. But it could be perhaps...
It's kids. Surely. It's kids.
Or it could be some sort of liberal sort of social protest by someone who objects to having to pay for parking. You know what I mean? So like some sort of
could be
stealth social campaign against the council. Maybe they feel they're charging too much money for parking. I know when I parked in Glasgow in September when I was back, I took my dad's car into town when I went for my PCR test, and I parked in the car park behind the Buchanan Street bus station. And I was in town for no more than 2 hours, and it cost me fucking £9.50 to park.
Wow.
Now that is a scandal, Franco.
It's a fucking scandal, Franco.
So before we go to a word from our sponsor last time was Tartan Special, and our downloads on the first couple of days of the Crow Road episodes were good. So do you think that was the Tartan Special effect?
It could be. It could have been the Tartan Special effect for you.
Maybe we should have them on again.
Well, I think we do have Tartan Special lined up in the future for another episode, but not this episode. We're going up into the sky for this episode.
Ah, brilliant. It's probably the best one I've seen, in fact.
Oh, I see. Well, let's have a little word from our sponsors.
US Airlines, and the girls are really nice. And those beautiful Far Eastern girls do splendid things with rice. Ooh.
German girls are so correct, and the planes are never late. But there's only one girl we want to see as we reach the departure gate.
I wish they all could be Caledonian. I wish they all could be Caledonian. I wish they all could be Caledonian girls.
British Caledonian, Airline of the Year.
Okay, so it was your choice this week, Greg. So why don't you tell us what we're going to be speaking about on the Swally today?
Well, like I mentioned in the last episode, I quite like it when we watch something together that we haven't seen before. And so this time I chose the 2019 BBC Scotland comedy drama series Guilt, written by Neil Forsyth, writer of Bob Servant. It stars Mark Bonnar and Jamie Sives as two brothers, Max and Jake, who, whilst driving back from a wedding, they accidentally run over and kill an elderly man on an Edinburgh street. They make the decision to cover up the crime, but as the show progresses, the brothers' difficulties in covering up their crime intensify, and as the story opens up, other characters and players come in and create quite an intriguing, suspenseful, and often hilarious drama series. So, as I mentioned, we were both Guilt virgins, both watched it over the last couple of weeks. How did you find Guilt?
Yeah, I think I was aware of this when it came out, because obviously being linked to Neil Forsyth. But for some reason, I hadn't watched it, and I don't know why. And then it came back into my attention when the second series was announced, and Greg McHugh, who Gary Tank Commander was attached to the second series. I haven't watched the second series yet. To be honest, once we finish recording this, I think I'm going to go home. Go home? I'm in my home. I'm going to go through, take the dog out for a walk, come back, and then my wife and I are going to start series 2 of Guilt, because I can't wait to watch it, but I wanted to wait until we'd recorded this episode so it didn't kind of cloud my judgment. I guess that can tell you my opinions on Guilt. I absolutely loved this show, and I think I've said this a couple of times in the Swally before. I'm almost annoyed it's taken me this long to watch it. It's such a clever show. It's a Scottish show. It's dripping in Edinburgh and dripping in Scotland, but it almost feels like you're kind of watching like an American kind of series, like almost like an HBO show. It feels like a Coen Brothers series. Like it feels like Fargo TV series. It's so good. It just twists and turns so well. You think the brothers have kind of gotten away with things, and then something else pops up to disrupt them. The cast are incredible. The writing is phenomenal. And I'm not just saying this because we're fans of Neil Forsyth, but you can see the Bob Servant elements in a few places, but it almost feels like he's grown up and matured as a writer in doing this. It's phenomenal. It's such a good show, and my wife absolutely loved it. We watched the first 2 episodes one night, and I think it was like maybe 11:30, and we were kind of like considering, do we watch the next one? Because we were so gripped. But then we're like, well, if you watch the next one, you have to watch the last one. And we're going to be up until 2 a.m. So we can't. But we ended up devouring the next 2 the following night. Absolutely loved this show. What about yourself? What did you think of it?
I had heard about it, like, you know, just when it was on TV in 2019, there was a lot of really positive press about it. It seemed, you know, obviously not living in Scotland, so not being as close to all the enthusiasm about it as maybe I could have been, but it seemed like it just took everybody by surprise, you know, as to how good it was. And then when I was back in Scotland in September, they were promoting the second series. And I knew Mark Bonnar from the second series of Line of Duty, where he plays Dryden. And so I guess I sort of went into it very, very vaguely knowing what it was about, really, like, super vaguely. As Dryden in Line of Duty, he's quite a dry character, you know, and obviously it comes out that he's not the worst villain that's ever been in Line of Duty, but he's not like a good guy, you know. You know, but to see him in this, because it's such, I mean, everybody that is in this is good, but I don't know, maybe I was just surprised by the sort of depth of his performance and everything, but it just blew me away. Like, I watched the first episode on Tuesday night, and then on Thursday night I just beasted through the last 3 episodes. And Paula was out, kids were doing what they were doing, whatever, so I just sat up the stairs, watched it on my laptop in bed, and his performance, like, he's such a good anti-hero, because as Max, he's so fucking devious and arrogant. And you know what I mean? And the way he's able, he'll turn away from the camera, and the camera will cut into his facial expression, and it'll be like a look of frustration and anger. And then he'll turn back to the character that he's interacting with and just turn on the charm in a second. Honestly, I'm like you. I can't wait to watch the second series to see what happens next for Mike and Jake, because like with Jake, you know, you do find yourself later on sort of wanting Max to, in some shape or form, pay for, because apologies if we're spoiling this for anybody that's not watched it, you know, you might want to stop listening now, go and watch it, and then come back in. But by the last sort of episode, he's so desperate to wriggle out of it, he doesn't care who he fucks, including his brother Jake. And the thing is, you know, when you boil it down, Jake is as complicit in what has happened with this poor old guy that they've knocked over with a car as Max is, really. You know, he goes along with covering it up and everything, but you still root for Jake a lot more, I think, than you do for Max by the end of the last episode. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Jake is so endearing, but he's so hopeless. Like, you get the impression he's just kind of trundled his way through life. He's been a bit of a hopeless kind of character. He owns a record shop, which Max has bought for him. And that's the weird thing. You kind of, it's hinted upon a few times that kind of the brothers don't really have a close relationship. Yeah. But because Max's wife, Claire, mentions a few times, you're spending a lot of time with Jake nowadays. You know, why? So you get the impression they're not close, but they obviously were at one point. And there is a point where they mention about their parents, and Max basically says that kind of Jake was the favourite, effectively. And so you get the resentment, but he obviously always looks after his younger brother, and he's bought him a record shop. Okay, he's using it to launder money for some serious gangsters.
Yeah.
However, he still bought him the shop and he's still looking out for him. And as you say, Jake was driving the car that effectively killed Walter. Max could have been like, well, he was driving, he's stoned. Okay, they list off the whole details of what would happen to both of them. And that's a lovely point when Max details all of the kind of crimes that we prosecuted with, and he does say something along the lines of, and when you're ruthlessly interfered with.
Yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. You're going to be charged with causing death by careless driving while uninsured. Considering how many walks you went for at the wedding, I imagine you're at least a wee bit stoned.
You said I was insured.
You said you're sober.
Well, then we'll have to pay for a taxi.
Well, that's a cracking defence, but because I let you drive my car uninsured and impaired, I'm criminally liable and open to civil prosecution like your pal's family there. Either way, I'll be disbarred, but on the flip side, I'll have plenty of time to come and visit you in prison and hear how you're being relentlessly interfered with.
He is kind of looking out for his younger brother, but it's a very odd relationship that they have.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to look out for Jake. Jake is so a nice guy, and it's summed up for me, and it's probably one of the funniest parts of the whole series is in the first episode when they go to Walter's wake and Jake was in first and then Max comes in, and as you've said, the facial expressions from Mark Bonnar, it's when he sees Jake handing out the sausage rolls. It's probably one of the funniest parts of the entire show.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, these two guys, because if you go through the whole cast, obviously, we'll come on to him in more detail later, but Bill Patterson is probably the best known actor in it. Like, all the other actors, like, so Mark Bonnar, you know, he's been in Taggart a couple of times, he's been in an episode of Phone Shop, Line of Duty, he's in Psychoville, he's got a Doctor Who under his belt, he's in the latest adaptation of Sunset Song that came out a couple of years ago, but never a kind of lead. And then Jamie Sives, who plays Jake, you know, he was one of his early gigs was in the not very good remake of The Longest Yard with Vinnie Jones in prison, Mean Machine, the football one. He's got a tagger. He's most recently had a kind of reasonable part in Game of Thrones and Chernobyl, but neither of them were really kind of leading men. And when you see the way, like, the chemistry between them and the way that these two guys drive what makes this show so enjoyable for me, their relationship, the way they play off each other, those two lead performances, and then everyone else in the cast, you know, like Ruth Bradley, who plays Angie, like, she's most recently been in Ted Lasso as the teacher, the Irish teacher at the school. Shan Brooke, her big role was playing the sister in Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch. She plays Sherlock and Mycroft's sister. Ellie Haddington, who plays Sheila, she's just one of these actresses who you feel like you've kind of grown up watching. She's been, you look at her IMDb, she's been in fucking everything. And then Eamon Elliott, or who I like to refer to is Peter fucking Ingalls from Filth. You know what I mean? Like, all people who have played like great roles in other successful things, but never had to carry a show. And they are the chemistry between all these actors in this, and of course the brilliant writing and how Forsyth just layers on a wee bit more plot, you know. So it starts off, it seems like it's quite a straightforward sort of plot in that first episode, right? These two brothers, they've ran this poor guy over, he then killed him. The show is going to be about how they stay one step ahead of the police or whoever else, but then so much more intricacies come in about Max and the shady stuff he's doing. And then Angie, who appears to be the niece of the guy, the long-lost niece of the guy who's been ran over. Sheila is the neighbour. Even Tom Yuri turns up, who's lost a fucking shitload of weight. Tom, he was looking good. As Sheila's son. Eamon is the sort of recovering alcoholic investigator. Kenny, do you know what I mean? Is on the one hand desperately trying to do the right thing.
But that's as you say, there's no kind of huge star as such, but this cast that has been assembled for this show is just incredible, and it works so well. And you can see them all bouncing off of each other's performances. It's incredible the way they work together. And even from the first moment when you meet the two brothers and they're driving in the car and Max is going on about the fucking butterflies at the wedding, but they had a cash bar.
Yeah.
And you instantly just get you just know that character.
Yeah.
And you know what he's all about. And he's like, fucking cash bar, a fucking wedding, but they could pay for butterflies. It's beautiful. And we've all been there. We all know that kind of scenario. And you're kind of not expecting it. And then bang, they crash into Walter.
Poor Walter.
And it's the beautiful, again, the comedic element of Jake running out to check on him. Checks he's dead, and then all of a sudden Jake's got his wallet. Yeah. Where'd you get that from? Oh, I got it from him. And you're kind of willing them, don't do this, don't do this, don't take him back into the house, but they do. And when they find out he's got terminal cancer, it's like, oh, all their Christmases have come at one.
Yeah, I mean, some of the banter between between the two of them in the car before they hit Walter, when they're talking about hiring clothes and, you know, like a man from Leith in a tuxedo. You know what I mean? All that stuff.
But that's it. Throughout the whole show, the exchange between the two brothers is just something that just the whole show is about. There's so many lines between those two that are just so hilarious, but so well written. You know, the speech they give when they're sat above Edinburgh and looking out, and you've got Easter Road at the side, and they're speaking about the Hibs season ticket. You know, Max says, who have Hibs got at the weekend? And Jake's like, well, the first thing I did was buy a season ticket when they got relegated. What did you do? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then it ends up in the you live up a chip shop.
Is it nice, Max? Is it nice with your job and your money and Claire?
Yes, Jake, as shallow as it might appear, I take great comfort in having a good job and money and Claire and not living above a chip shop.
It's a pizzeria.
Does it do chips?
It's the comic timing, and that is genuinely something that would be in Bob Servant.
Yeah.
From Neil Forsyth. That would not look amiss from Bob Servant, but it's more of a grown-up version of Bob Servant in this show. And it just sits so well. And that had me in stitches in terms of and it's Mark Bonnar's performance and his reaction, and it's just the way he delivers that line of
you could tell Forsyth, like, it feels like he sort of relishes, right, you know, like you mentioned, some of our favourite parts of Bob's Servant were just the kind of one-on-ones between Bob and another character, and he's just having and it's just back and forth, quick lines back and forth, like Brian Cox and Jonathan Watson, etc. You know, so like his ear for dialogue. You know, he said in the notes for the show, apparently he wanted to write something about siblings, which he feels are the most interesting dramatic relationship in a show with a motif that ran through all the characters. And like, what is the one thing that everybody has to some extent about something in their life is guilt. You know what I mean? You know, hopefully none of us carry the guilt of having ran somebody over and killed them. Obviously the show's taken it to a certain extreme. But if you think about it, like, all the characters, all the kind of primary characters in the series are carrying some level of guilt. So like Max and Jake are obviously, their main thing is the fact that they've ran over Walter and killed him. But you know, Jake is carrying a bit of guilt because about just feeling like he's sort of wasted his life. Max is sort of carrying a bit of guilt about his relationship with his mum as well. Then you've got Angie, who's turns out is an imposter, who is feeling guilty about the part that she's playing in this sort of deception. And then Claire, played by Shan Brooke, she's carrying guilt as well because she's obviously cheating on her husband with a lady at her gym, you know, but she's also trying to make the relationship work as well. I mean, I don't want to keep gushing about how good the writing is, but just all these little subtle themes and stuff running through it. You know, it starts off as one thing, one like apparently quite straightforward sort of conceit, and then all these other little, and like again all these rich characters, and it's so good. And you feel kind of proud of it, because this is a BBC Scotland production. It's been fucking years since BBC Scotland produced something as dramatic and as well written and as well performed as this, you know? Shetland?
It's the same as you. I hadn't read much about the premise. I knew basically it was two brothers knock someone over in the car, and then what happened. So of course I'm sitting down to watch it thinking, well, it's a 4-episode series. It's bound to be like the end of the first episode. They knock the guy down, and that's the cliffhanger for the second episode.
Yeah.
No, happens in the first 3 minutes. Yeah. And immediately where the fuck are they going from here? How are they going to keep this up for 4 episodes? But they do. It just twists and turns so much, and there's so many different levels to it, and it's just a masterpiece of writing in terms of keeping you engaged. You always want to watch the next episode, and there's constant surprises. Like I say, you're kind of working out what to do. And I purposely didn't look at the kind of cast list in terms of watching it. So when episode 3 starts, and I'm sitting watching it with my wife, and immediately out of the Range Rover pops Bill Patterson, I let out an audible, "Oh my God." And my wife's like, "What?" And I'm like, "It's Bill Patterson. I did not realise he was in this." And she's like, "Who's Bill Patterson?" I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah. It's Bill Patterson, and he's in this. And oh my God, he's playing a proper serious gangster. You're not used to seeing Bill Patterson in this kind of role, apart from when he played Ali Fraser in season 2 of A Vida Zane Pet.
Yeah, I know. He's brilliant actually in it, because the last sort of few things, obviously we just watched them in The Crow Road, playing a very relatable character in The Crow Road. I think the last thing that I had seen him in was Fleabag, where he plays Dad, the most sort of recent modern thing that I'd seen him in. And again, Fleabag's, it's a comedy. There's a bit of sort of tragedy in it as well, without ruining it for anybody. But he's really good in it. And when I first worked out what his character was, I was thinking, Bill Patterson playing a gangster? Because I've never seen him playing Ali Fraser in A Vida Zane Pet. So I was thinking, I'm not sure I can get on board with Bill Patterson playing a gangster. But as it goes on, you sort of forget that it's Bill Patterson, which I guess is the job of any good actor, is to make you forget. But yeah, he's brilliant in it. So he has the scene with him and Mark Bonnar as Max, when Roy Lynch, Bill's character, is taken over Max's office after he finds out that Max has tried to cut him out of the deal with the money laundering and the Russian guys. And he's listening to Max sort of threaten him and tell him why he's not gonna stand for it and blah blah blah. He's just sort of patiently listening, and he doesn't threaten anybody in it. Or he doesn't overtly threaten anybody. It's like he grabs anybody or whatever, or even sort of verbally sort of says, if you don't do this, this is going to happen or whatever. It's all implied. And again, it just goes back to what we said in the last episode about what a fucking brilliant actor Bill Patterson is. There's so many, he conveys so much without appearing to do very much,
Oh no, in that scene he is so menacing, but doesn't do a huge amount, but very sinister. I would recommend Series 2 of A Vida Zane Pet. If you get a chance, check it out. It's set in Spain, and Bill Patterson plays the big baddie, Ali Fraser. Highly recommended. I think we need to come on to N.M. Elliott as Kenny, and he kind of steals the show for me. In the first episode, definitely, but throughout the series, he's such a complex character, and throughout the show, did you feel that from the first episode, it's filled with comedy in the beginning, but as the episodes go on, the show does get a lot darker and more serious. Yeah. So there's less laughs when you come to episode 4, for example. But the first episode, Kenny is drunk for the majority of it, but his laugh range is just spot on, and he's so funny.
He's very, very good in it. And you know, like I saw Kenny and Jake are they're the guys you kind of want to come out of it the best. You know what I mean? Sort of Max's manipulation of Kenny, especially when Kenny is trying to sober up, you know, and you know he's trying to stop drinking and everything, and he wants to do a good job, and he wants to get his family back, and Max meets him in the Balmoral bar, and he's trying to get, you know, by this point Kenny is sobered up, he's got the bit between his teeth, he wants to do a good investigation for Angie, the apparent long-lost niece of deceased Walter, and Max is trying to kind of knock him off the boat a bit. You know, he's like he tells this lie about seeing his wife kissing some guy in the drive, and then he's like, oh well, I'll just get you a drink, and he's like, yeah, I'll take a lemonade, and he says, you sure? Lager tops, sportsman's drink. Really made me laugh. But yeah, no, you're I mean, he's a wee bit hapless, poor Kenny, and unfortunately he gets an absolute shoeing for his haplessness by one of Bill Paterson's goons. But yeah, I mean, he's brilliant, you know, brilliant in this, Eamon Elliott.
I think his introduction scene, when he speaks about his Freeview box being stuck on More 4, is probably one of the highlights of the series for me.
Yeah.
I can't take on a case, lads. My head's minced with a baby.
Really? You look great.
The wife won't answer my calls. I haven't seen the kids in weeks. My Freeview box is frozen on More 4.
Right.
Ever tried to wank the grand designs?
No.
Don't.
He's brilliant. What I liked about this is that I love a good drama that is really emotive. And before we find out that Angie isn't actually Walter's long lost niece, and she and Jake are in a relationship, like, and quite a nice relationship. You know, Jake's obviously as the proprietor of a record shop, he knows a lot about music. Walter's got this amazing record collection of old jazz hits, greats and stuff, and you know, it's quite a sweet relationship. But before you find out that Angie is more than she seems to be, it's quite tough going watching that relationship unfold. You know, like she's the sort of instigator of it. Well, I guess Max is a bit of the instigator because he sort of shoves Jake towards Angie to babysit her, as he puts it. And then this, you know, they end up sleeping together, but she's the one who sort of instigates it and everything, and this quite nice relationship forms, and you're like, you really want to like Jake at that point, and you're like, but how can you just like deceive this woman? And then obviously it gets a bit easier when Angie's is exposed as an imposter in episode 3. So I say I like it when like a drama kind of or a show really makes you feel something like that, you know what I mean? And for the characters, it doesn't happen that often these days.
That's the genius of the writing, though, in that the first episode when Jake sleeps with Angie, and you know what he's done, but when he wakes up and he turns over and looks at Walter's hairbrush, and you think, oh no, he's just had sex in Walter's bed, like the guy that he's just killed with his niece as well. And his hair's just there. Yeah. You do feel sorry for Jake at that point, despite what he's done.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, because obviously Angie is very attractive. She's not just physically attractive, but she's an attractive person. She's quite a sharp wit. She seems quite easygoing. She's quite dry, quite funny. Jake's maybe a wee bit lonely with his record shop that, you know, that he doesn't feel is really going that well. Little does he know that it's actually going really, really well because of the money that's being washed through it. So, you know, I guess he sort of falls into this, you know, it's quite, you know, if you're in that sort of situation, like someone shows a bit of interest in you, especially someone that you're attracted to, you're going to jump at the chance.
Well, that's one question I would have about Leith Beats, which is a great name for a record store. Yeah. But Jake seems to think it's this massive store that's doing massive business, like FOP. But we never see a customer in the store.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, so if you're Jake, you're just signing these tax returns or whatever, but you don't, you know, you're in there every day. You're not seen anybody actually buying any records. The only person that we ever see in the record shop apart from Jake is Max or Angie.
Oh, and the guy that comes to get him to sign his tax papers.
Oh yeah, the bent policeman.
So I have to ask you, did you, because I know you're a fan of these, like Angie in her dungarees?
I liked Angie all around. She, again, Ruth Bradley, who plays Angie, she's a bit like the rest of the cast, never really played a lot of like kind of moderate to small parts and a lot of things over the years. I think she's done quite a lot of, she's Irish. She's not American. I think she's done quite a lot of drama on RTE and stuff in Ireland. I think the Ted Lasso and Guilt are probably her two biggest. Guilt's probably a bigger thing for her even than Ted Lasso, because her part in Ted Lasso is quite small. But yeah, she's very, very good.
Yeah, she is fantastic and a really good actress. She plays the part really well. And the big reveal at the end of episode 2, when you're thinking, what the hell is going on here? You genuinely believed she was Walter's niece, but then there's something kind of creeps in that you're getting a little bit like something not right here, but you don't know what it is. And you're almost pissed off with Jake for leading her down this merry path. But once it's revealed, you kind of think they're both as bad as each other. And then you begin to feel sorry for both of them for leading each other on. And when they reveal to each other what they've been doing, you're actually kind of relieved that they're like, okay, we're still going to continue this relationship. When Angie says, I'm leaving, I want you to come with me, you're happy for Jake because he's going to get his happy ending.
I mean, her guilt is the kind of catalyst for it all going wrong. Because, she's driven to have a proper investigation made by the fact that she feels guilty about her deception, like pretending to be this long-lost niece. Because if she had stuck to the plan, Walter would have been buried, clothes would have been burnt, and everybody would have sailed off into the sunset. But it's her guilt that sort of drives the sort of house of cards to eventually come falling down.
So, to speak about Sheila, she's obviously done this before, hasn't she? She's the Harold Shipman of Leith.
Yeah.
She's done this to Ralph, and now she's done it to Walter, because when her son comes to visit, he says to her, Ralph left you his house, Walter's left you his house, and he just cuts him off and says, eat your soup, son.
Yeah.
So she's a little murderess of Leith, it would appear.
Merry Widow. Yeah. She's that's such a good performance from Ellie Harrington. Yeah, because she's, the scenes between her and Max are great when Max is sort of dictating, this is what happens, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, is that right, son? Okay, son.
Yeah.
And then she just turns 20 grand. I'll go away. And she, at that point, I guess you find out later on when you find out what her whole sort of angle is in like episode 3 and 4, but she when you find out what her original plan was, she's actually 20 grand up until Angie comes in and insists on her money to leave. She's managed to convince the lawyer that's handling Walter's estate that this is the niece, blah blah blah. So she's going to get the money from the house. She's got an extra 20 grand in cash that she's managed to blackmail Max out of. So it's just, it's such, and like I said before, I mean, she is her IMDb, the amount of things that she's been in over the year, and she comes from Aberdeen, a bit like your good self, mate.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she certainly does. No, I'm impressed with how much she's been in over the years. I think we need to speak about the soundtrack as well in this, because the soundtrack is just so good.
Yeah, really, really good soundtrack. I really enjoyed that. I really, really enjoyed the soundtrack. I mean, everything from sort of housey kind of techno music that our mutual friends probably wouldn't enjoy because it's maybe a bit too highbrow for him. But you've even got like the old little clips of jazz standards and stuff like that. Yeah, the soundtrack's really good.
I read a review of the show on IMDb, and it said that this show is great, but it needed more violence, sex, drama, and car chases. And I'm thinking, what do you think you're watching? It's not a Bond film. This show is just perfectly paced, and it's great. It doesn't need any of that. Why do you need more violence? Why do you need more sex? And we'll come on to this when we're doing the Swally Awards, but there's literally no violence, really, or sex in this show, and it doesn't need it because it's so well written and so well acted. If you want car chases, go and watch a Fast and Furious film. This show's got everything, and I don't understand what this reviewer was going for.
No, I think, like I said before, I'm kind of really proud of the fact that it's come from Scotland. And when you read about it, it's done phenomenally well worldwide. It was on BBC First in Australia, got fantastic reviews. It was released in France, where it was called Petit Meurtre entre frères, which means a small murder between brothers. In Sweden, it was called Var lilla hemlich, or Little Secret. And it was described by Aftonbladet as exemplary television craftsmanship. It's been on in South Africa. It's been on in Germany, where it was retitled Keiner is Schuld, which means nobody is guilty. Die Reinplas said this combination of tragedy and humour is high art, which succeeds here, which is true because it's I guess if you think of some of these sort of European, French or German sort of melodramas and stuff, there's a lot of that in Guilt's DNA. In America, it was on PBS Masterpiece. The New York Times called it tense but textured, with characters that are funny and well drawn. NPR said that Guilt had a verve that made me think of the TV series Fargo, which I mean is high praise. And it's even being remade by Applause Entertainment in Hindi, so we're getting a Bollywood version of Guilt next year. So I mean, it's been an absolute phenomenon. And we always like it when something from Scotland goes on to take the world by storm.
I also read a little bit of criticism of people, again on IMDb, saying that, this is typical woke BBC because they've tried to shoehorn in this interracial lesbian relationship into the show. Now, if you're one of the people that's commented and complained about that, get a fucking life. It's 2021. Get a life. I didn't question this for a second in terms of watching it and what was going on. I was invested in this and completely believable. My wife was well into this as well. She was saying, she's in love with her, she's going to leave with her. And I think it did need this element, but why does it matter in terms of who it is that she's with? It doesn't matter at all. I thought it was completely compelling and completely believable.
I mean, it doesn't really matter, really. It could have been. It just happened. I mean, the way I sort of saw it was, it just happened to be a black woman that she met at the gym, right? The actual fact is that the actress's ethnicity has got no bearing whatsoever on that part of the plot. It just so happens that Claire is lonely. She feels neglected by Max. She can't relate to him. She meets a woman at the gym who they start out as friends to begin with, and then something more happens. And then that's Claire's portion of the guilt in the plot. That she feels guilty for cheating on her husband. At the same time, she's got no idea what Max has been up to. Like, the whole hit and run aside, she's got no idea of all these dodgy dealings and the fact that he's complicit in this money laundering scam and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I mean, these the ability for anybody to share their opinion on anything is perhaps one of the sort of downsides of the whole internet. Do you know what I mean? I mean, despite the fact that we're using the internet to share our opinions, but hopefully our collective opinions are well considered and unoffensive to 99% of our listeners. There's a line that I really enjoyed, and you made me think of it today when you sent that little tweet that Rod the Mod put on of his little family celebration in his kitchen, and it's where Jake describes Rod Stewart's career as the great artistic collapse. Which really made me laugh.
That did make me want to go and rediscover some early Rod Stewart.
But the faces,
in terms of the way he explains and describes him, I need to go back and have a little listen.
All right, is it time to put Guilt through our Swally Awards? Have you got anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, no, I think that sums up Guilt. So let's put Guilt through our Swally Awards. What's first?
Okay, first this I've got the nudity awards, but I can't think of any nudity in Guilt at all. It's nothing, right?
No, there's literally no nudity at all.
Okay.
And I can sniff out a cock in a box at 20 paces, but there's no nudity in this show.
Sniff out a cock in a pick and mix aisle. Okay, the next award then is the Cosmo Awards, and I've got 2 for this one.
Yeah, I had 3 written down.
3?
Yeah, but 2 kind of, I would say. It's a difficult award, I would say, because most of the actors in this have been in a lot of other things down south of the border, but I'd be interested to hear. What are your 2?
I had Bill Patterson, but I kind of feel that he's pipped by Ellie Haddington. But I'm now thinking it maybe Tom Muir as well, because he's got a lot of credit, a lot of appearances. Who did you have?
I had Haddington and Patterson, but I also had Bonnar as well, because he has been in quite a few Scottish things, but probably not as much as Patterson and Haddington. I don't know, I'm torn. Genuinely, in this show, a lot of the actors haven't been in a huge amount of Scottish productions.
Yeah. I mean, I think on the sort of Cosmo meter, just in terms of being someone who is everywhere, I think Ellie Haddington wins it for me.
Yeah, let's give it to her. I think it's probably going to be our only Cosmo award.
It might be. So for the Jake McQuillan Urtizu Award, there was only really one that I could think of to give this to, because like you mentioned earlier on, it's not a particularly violent programme.
No.
The threat of violence is never far from the surface. I gave it to one of Lynch's goon banging Max's face off the desk when he's in the middle of threatening Roy Lynch in the office.
Yeah, that would be mine too. I also had Kenny getting his head smacked off the kind of wrench in the scrapyard.
Oh yeah.
But that's not really a tease out as such. So yeah, I would give it to Max getting his head off the desk.
The next one then is the Franco Begbie Award for gratuitous swearing. My choice here, it's not particularly gratuitous one, but I've picked it because it's probably the one that made me laugh the most. And that's when Max uses the phrase to Jake, "your signature fuckwittery." Just really enjoyed. What did you have?
I like that one. That was good. I had an honourable mention to Claire when in episode 1 she's on the spin bikes at the spinning class and the instructor says to her, "Are you in the zone?" And Claire says, "I'm not in the fucking zone." I thought that was good. However, I gave it to Max when Jake and Max are in the graveyard visiting their mother's grave, and Max is delivering the speech about his involvement with the gangsters, and he says,
What have you done? What have you done to me?
I can tell you as much as you want to know. It's up to you. But if you walk away from me now, we're fucked. Both of us. Properly. Seriously. Dangerously fucked.
Well, it's nice to have the company.
And it's the delivery of those words that I just thought the use of swearing was fantastic. But I do also love "I'm not in the fucking zone."
Yeah. I think it's not a particularly sort of sweary show.
It's not.
And I suppose for the BBC, you can't really. I think Channel 4 are a wee bit, maybe a wee bit looser in those, with that sort of thing. But the BBC, I think, it still maintains a certain level where you might have like a movie on BBC Two, like an American Hollywood film, like might show Goodfellas or something, and it's just full of swearing. But stuff that they've produced themselves. I mean, even Line of Duty has the occasional F-bomb, but it's really, really occasional. You know what I mean? It's maybe like once or twice in the whole season. But I think even like Bob Servant had a wee bit of swearing in it, but it wasn't. And the fact that Neil Forsyth uses it so sparingly just makes it all the more effective.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Okay, so then our next category award, is the archetypal Scottish moment. What did you have for this one?
I had 2 for this. I had the Sean Connery impression that the solicitor gives to Angie, because every Scotsman likes to give a Sean Connery impression. Yep. This is the Chicago way. But I actually gave it to Bill Patterson when he's meeting with the... Well, we never actually find out, do we? Are they Russian or just Eastern European?
Yeah. Well, the reason I thought it was Russia is because he says that when he gives him the whiskey, he says this whiskey was made while you lot were still communists. Something like that, right? That made me think it was Russia.
Yeah. He does say, we always like to beat the English.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very archetypal Scottish moment.
Yeah. Well, rather than a moment, I had there was this one sort of location set seemed, for some reason, it just seemed like ridiculously Scottish to me, and that's the Balmoral bar where Max meets Kenny.
That was close on my list, yeah.
It just feels like a real sort of Scottish working man's pub, like a sort of dingy place of an afternoon where guys with problems with booze will congregate, but probably like on a Saturday night, quite a lively place, maybe like a band on or something, or a disco, like the wives are out, that sort of thing. Yeah, it just felt quite Scottish to me. And then the last award, the aforementioned Sean Connery award, for who won the drama, or rather who got to go home and fuck the prom queen. I feel like we might be on the same page here, but I'll let you go first.
Have you got two? Have you?
I just got one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Go on then, you go first.
Okay. I after quite a lot of consideration, I had to give it to Mark Bonnar. I think he's just a revelation in it. He's absolutely brilliant.
I would have liked to have given it to Eamon Elliott for his portrayal of Kenny, because he's so good. But it has to be Mark Bonnar.
Yeah.
He is fantastic in this role. The facial expressions, the acting, he's just so good and so believable, and just such a well-formed character. So I did have kind of a one of the two, but yeah, I have to give it to Mark Bonnar, without a doubt. And I think maybe a little asterisk to Neil Forsyth as well for the writing. Without him writing this, they wouldn't be able to deliver this performance, and some of the lines he comes up with are just so fantastic in terms of the comedy. So yeah.
Yeah, and he's so comfortable. He's so comfortable with to your point. He's so comfortable with the dialogue. Well, they all are, you know what I mean? But especially him and Jamie Sives, who plays Jake. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's like Brian Cox and Jonathan Watson. They're just incredibly comfortable with the dialogue, with the one-liners. They seem to know exactly how it's to be delivered, how it's to be said. It's brilliant. Well, so that's Guilt. If you haven't seen it and you've listened this long, then we've probably fucking ruined it for you. But I did say to you earlier on that it was when the time was to turn off the podcast, go and watch Guilt, and then come back and watch it. I'm looking forward to watching Series 2, and I think we should probably review Series 2 in a later episode. What's your thoughts?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think we'll do that very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, so before you tell us what you've chosen for our next episode, we've had a bit of correspondence since the last time of recording. Yeah. So you're going to tell us about somebody from very far away.
We certainly have. We had a lovely email from Alf Stamp in New Zealand. And hello, Alf. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And he said he's been listening to us when he's been walking along the beach with his wife in New Zealand. And he's been listening to the podcast. He loved listening to the episode Down Among the Big Boys. Didn't enjoy the film so much, but he is eagerly awaiting to watch Under the Skin. But he hasn't got back in touch with us since we watched that, so I would be interested to hear his thoughts on that. But yeah, thanks, Alf. What about yourself? Have you heard from any listeners?
I mean, I think if he didn't enjoy Down Among the Big Boys, it could go either way with Under the Skin, I feel. Another listener who's been in touch is Stephen Campbell, who hails from the parish of Paisley, so not quite as far away as New Zealand. He writes, "Hi guys, I've recently discovered your podcast as I'm in production on a crime drama feature film set in Paisley." He teases perhaps a future watch on the Swally. Stephen, we can guarantee that if it's any good, we'll give it a watch.
Definitely.
And we'll talk about it on the Swally. And listening to the show has helped him through the many tedious hours of pre-production logistics. He says, cheers for the entertainment, and he can't wait to listen to The Crow Road, which came out last Thursday and is available pretty much everywhere that you can find podcasts. So
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode, Stephen. Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can contact us on cultureswally@gmail.com, or you can follow us on social media on Instagram @cultureswallypod or on Twitter @swallypod. And Greg, having a little bit of trouble with the website, aren't we?
Yeah, the website unfortunately has been taken down due to some issues with Bluehost. I may have gotten a bit emotional on a web chat with them when they failed to resolve our issue, but we'll have a new website soon, and I'll post the links to it on their socials when it's up and running. Give you the address on a future source.
Okay, so next time on the Swally, we are having a little bit of a break from the conventional norm of picking something each week. We are doing a Christmas special next time on the Swally, and Greg, you have chosen the Christmas special, and I think it's something you're quite excited about.
It's something that I'm desperately excited about. I can't take credit for finding it. It sort of came about as a bit of a joke that I made on Twitter. But Nikki found for me the 1983 Crankies Club Christmas special. So I'm looking forward to discussing that in some detail on the next episode of the Swally.
Fantastic. I cannot wait to watch that again and talk to you about it next time on the Swally. Okay then, well, till next time then, Greg. Fandabby dozy.
Fandabby dozy.
So then, Big Jim Malone, as a wee think, leans over to Elliot Ness and says, "You sends one of yours to the hospital. You send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way." Christ, that line. I wasn't just saying it. Absolutely wasn't. Sean Connery. The Untouchables. Chicago.